Welcome back, Potter fans, to the Show of Requirement, a Harry Potter podcast, which is streaming everywhere that you get podcasts. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, because we're cool now and you can see us.
Yeah.
Harry Potter Fanatics YouTube.
A free Patreon.
There we go. Yeah, if that's not extra motivation to watch our show, I don't know what is.
Yeah. You don't have to pay for it. It's free.
Today I am joined with my co-host David and our special guest, Sierra Davis.
Wow.
She is our our Slytherin representative that we are so lucky to have and to call friend.
Mm-hmm.
We are back with another why am I pregnancy brains making me forget? House Cup episode. I was like, what is that thing called when you get points?
I think we can get points.
We're back with another House Cup episode. If you all have been listening, you know that previously Spencer and I did a Hufflepuff episode. David listened and awarded us points as we went. And then Spencer and I then listened to David as David gave an overview of Gryffindor, and we gave him points as he was trying to defend his house.
Well, let me remind the listeners also, or viewers, of one specific thing. Spencer took away points from me, which I didn't know that we could do that at all, because he was being very salty that I didn't have enough manifesto, some grandeur, some over-the-top theatrics when I talked about the trio being in Gryffindor. It's just like, no, this is facts. Like, I'm just telling you how it is. And he took points from me. So
you weren't hype enough, David.
Apparently, yeah. So he was like, he took away points because I wasn't hype enough.
That's like the 8th trait of Gryffindors. You gotta be hype.
My hype is chill sometimes. Like sometimes the hype is in the chill. Yeah. I'm speaking that into existence. It's probably not a real thing, but I'm trying to speak it into existence.
I mean, I can see it.
We'll allow it. We'll allow it. Well, today we've brought in Sierra to tell us all things Slytherin, to give us the rundown of Slytherin House, as if we're newbies and we know nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she's going to tell us everything, and we're going to award her points based off of how comprehensive and how hype she is.
Yeah, apparently hype is a factor. Hype is a factor in this, y'all.
Well, Spencer's not here to take away points, so maybe.
That's right.
Maybe we won't.
No.
R.I.P. Spencer.
Yeah.
He's not dead, but he's just taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on a sabbatical.
Oh yeah, sabbatical leave.
Yeah.
It's a good word. Love
Thanks. That. I liked it better than hiatus.
No, 10 points to Hufflepuff for the usage of sabbatical.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I'll add that to the tally. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, David, is there anything that you feel like I've missed because pregnancy brain's a real thing?
No, I don't think so. I think it should be noted to go back and check the Hogwarts Houses episode that we did with Sierra in season 1, to where she broke down Slytherins in a way it really opened up the conversation about the bad rap that Slytherins get. And so I'm looking forward to Sierra continuing to unpack that and for us to really see how valuable Slytherin House really is to Hogwarts, but I think the Wizarding world as a whole. So
definitely,
whenever you're ready, Sierra, just go ahead and take us away.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm not stressed at all because I obviously want to do superb. But yeah, so hi, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Like David mentioned, I was actually thinking back to that show we did all those years.
Many moons ago. Yeah.
Many moons. All the moons.
Yeah.
So if you're new to HP, if you're here, I assume you're not, but if you are, it should be noted that the first thing about any house I think that you should think about are the traits that get you placed in the house. So for Slytherin, I think we're pretty impressive. I might be biased, just maybe. But so our key traits that we really look for, value, uphold are things like ambition, resourcefulness. Some people say determination, other people say leadership, and then cleverness and cunning. So the fun part about that is, and I'll get into this later, but this is my pre-spiel to the spiel, is that that means we get a lot of really evil people sorted into Slytherin because they are those ambitious people. And Slytherin has, much in the way that I feel Gryffindor has a secret alternate trait of like foolhardiness. I think Slytherin has that a similar like secret unlockable trait of you have a disregard for rules, not in a haphazard way, but in a way that if you have the ambition, you're going to find a means to get there. So just note that, keep that in the back of your minds as we deep dive into all the things about Slytherin. And I think it's probably really funny for our listeners that haven't seen me before. I'm probably one of the most bubbly Slytherins you're ever gonna meet.
That is so true.
You can't, if you're watching us on YouTube, which you totally should, you'll see that my room is very not like the dark dungeon common room. It's quite the opposite. There are many things happening here. You'll find something new to stare at every 2 seconds for my ADHD people, so have fun. But so yeah, Slytherin House was founded by Salazar Slytherin back, the core 4 of the founders. One fun thing that he did was he made the Chamber of Secrets, which is the big bad stomping grounds for the second movie.
Spencer's favorite book.
Mine
it is Spencer's favorite book.
We had that talk because I was also on that show. And perfection. Too good. I will love anything that has, that much Slytherin content in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, basilisks, I think, are fantastic and cool. So there's that. Big snakes, for anybody that doesn't know that part. So that's the other thing. Slytherin House symbolism. You're going to see snakes everywhere. They're all over Hogwarts Castle. Sometimes they're in the walls. Beware. But that's our big our emblem. It's going to be a serpent. We're actually our element is water, which I think is really ironic, considering not really ironic, but like I don't know, really well woven when you consider that the Chamber of Secrets. Sorry for people listening. I have a scatterbrain. The Chamber of Secrets had a lot of water present. It was below everything, just like the Slytherin common room is. And you see a lot of crossover between Slytherin elements and water. And I never really picked up on that until I was really deep diving into like more of the all put together lore crossing over between all of the games and books and new movies, all that kind of thing. But I really hadn't thought about it until I would say semi-recently in just trying to put stuff together, because obviously now there's Hogwarts Legacy out. And so you actually get to go into the common room, not through the eyes of Harry pretending to be people he's not. Like, you get to have a good time.
Have you been playing?
Exciting. Girl, I'm too poor.
We're
in nursing school.
It's fine.
But soon I will work more than I do now, and then I will do more than watch YouTube.
We'll talk then. Yeah.
But so, yeah, let me get back on track here with where I was supposed to be at. So going back to those house values, I know, big leap backwards. So I mentioned ambition, I mentioned cunning, I mentioned leadership, determination, resourcefulness. All of those in and of themselves don't sound like they really equate to evil. But one of the things that is really like lined up throughout the book series, throughout the initial movies, obviously, Slytherin is at first, before Voldemort becomes a real big threat, it's the big bad, right? It's Harry versus the Slytherin guys. It's Gryffindor versus Slytherin House. It's always these two players at the forefront, and Slytherin is always the not favorable side. It's the antagonist to our protagonist, But there are many examples of Slytherins who are both notable or just left in the background of the storyline that are actually good forces in the wizarding world and do many good things. For all my Cursed Child fans, obviously, Scorpius Malfoy doing good things out there, being a little bit little bit of a game changer. I'm gonna leave that where it's at. That's
I'll talk about it here in a second. Yeah.
It's like Cursed Child is not a lot of people's cup of tea, but really you get a lot of development into the different sides of these houses, especially with, Albus Potter actually being sorted into Slytherin, the only of Harry's children to be sorted into Slytherin. So, I mean, that little last moment at Deathly Hallows where he's like, Dad, what if I'm a Slytherin? Would you love me?
Yeah.
And that stigma is very much there. There's very much the stigma that sorted into Slytherin means like you're a terrible person, you're evil, you're going to do bad things. I wouldn't call myself evil, but obviously, there is that mold, but there's also plenty of people that break that mold. So I guess moving right along into my little list of notable Slytherins, kicking off with those.
Actually, before we'll do that, we'll break this off into sections, and so now great. Abby and I will give our 2 cents, and then we'll award some points. So Abby, go ahead. You go first, and then I'll finish up.
Yeah. No, I think that I love. Well, just in general, breaking stigmas, but like thinking about how, not every, like, we don't have to live in stereotypes. Like, not every Slytherin's going to be evil or rude or hateful. Like, Sierra, you're one of the least hateful people I've ever met. Like, you're 100%. You're not a Draco Malfoy. You're not a Parkinson. You're not a Goyle or a Crabbe.
Or an Umbridge. Don't forget her.
Oh,
she was a Slytherin. Don't forget.
I do forget, but I shouldn't because she really.
No, really though, doesn't she just embody it?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that personality. You get the stereotype when you look at her. You're like,
oh man,
wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you make a lot of really good points that, like, while some of their traits, while taken to the extreme, and on one end can bring a lot of like negative characteristics. Like ultimately, like ambition's not a bad thing. Cunning's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that there's a lot of resourcefulness with Slytherin. And so I love that you pointed that out. And so, yeah, like 50 points. Woo.
Nice. So I love the fact that you brought up Umbridge just right now, and then Scorpius Malfoy, because I think they're the
dichotomy.
They're the far ends of the spectrum of Scorpius is that bubbly, funny, charming, witty, crazy Slytherin that really, if you look at the history of who Slytherins are, he's an outlier. Like he's not the norm, but he is, again, has a lot of those Slytherin traits, but uses them for good. While Umbridge embodies everything that those traits are in a negative aspect, in a negative connotation, because, she's stuck up. She's a purist. She hates centaurs and any creatures that are abnormal or just a little bit weird or whatever. And so the fact that I love Scorpius Malfoy so much. One, because I did see the play on Broadway in New York last summer, and it was fantastic and it was amazing. But Scorpius, he was just such a lovable character because he did break those stereotypes of the bad rap that Slytherins usually get. And even though Albus was one of my least favorite characters from that, he shows, and he and Scorpius are able to show the audience. He's able to show they're able to show us that even the fact of getting into Slytherin, automatically people think, oh, you're gonna be evil. You're gonna be bad. Like when Albus is sorted into Slytherin, everyone is shocked and even just like, oh my gosh, Harry Potter's son is in Slytherin. Like, this is awful. This is terrible. And we're taken through this journey of just like, no, you can be a good wizard and be in Slytherin. And so just that aspect of you presenting that was amazing. So I'll also award 50 points on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, let's jump forward. Let's go to notable Slytherins.
Awesome.
Which we did kind of just talk about.
We did.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
It's worth. Because for somebody that doesn't know, the main storyline, some people came in on Cursed Child, which was a whole whirlwind when it first came out. And, you may not know the whole story building time frame. Or, a lot of people that grew up similar to how we three grew up didn't have the chance to read them when they were younger or were introduced at an older age. So, you never know. So obviously you have two families we've presented just in the names that we've already got. So you have the Malfoys. The Malfoys are a main staple family for the Slytherin. They go way back into the line of notable Slytherin. So in the initial series, you had Lucius Malfoy, who arguably was, I would say, a meh Slytherin. Like, is he bad? Yes. But I characterize Slytherins in a couple of different ways. And one of the ways that I like to characterize us is, so you have your ambition and your cunning, but what is your ambition for? What do you use your resourcefulness for? What is your point of determination? And for Lucius, I feel like that was very self-preservation on his part.
It was fear-based.
It was definitely fear-based, whereas you have his wife, Narcissa, whom I adore, by the way. Love Narcissa Malfoy. Yeah. Because her determining force was family, And that's one of my big deals about being a Slytherin is you can have all of that ambition and cunningness, and your end goal is to keep your family unit together in a world that's, crumbling. So you become an opportunist in that way. I feel like Slytherins are very much opportunists. And much like in nature, you can either be an opportunistic, like parasite type person, or you can be an opportunist in such a way where you find symbiotic relationships with where you're at, or just strike out on your own and make your own new path. And that is a really good way, I think, of thinking about these traits that a lot of Slytherins mainly define themselves with. Because yes, you can be the greatest dark wizard you've ever been. I said that on our first show. You can be Voldemort if you want to. You can be Tom Riddle, who goes through school and his ambition is to be the most powerful wizard the world has ever known. And his ambition led him to dark arts because those arts are powerful. They are impressive. They are scary. Fear is power in a lot of places. And whenever you grew up in a bad childhood home like Tom Riddle did, where you didn't really have family and those defining features, what do you latch on to? You say, well, I'm afraid. I have no power. What do I want? I want power. Whereas Narcissa, really grew up in a home where you didn't have love. Like, yeah, you weren't really fear mongering. I mean, it was a nice family household, being she's part of the Blacks, correct? Yeah. So the Blacks weren't, they were terrible if you liked not being a Slytherin. They were terrible if you didn't, follow the family core values. But if you kind of flew under the radar and you got sorted into Slytherin, everything was well and you were kept on the family tree. Right. But that's not a system for love. That's a system for status. Her family liked status. What did she want? She wanted love. So that was her ambition. And she chose one way. She stayed within the lines. And then you look at Andromeda Tonks, who chose another way. Her ambition was love. She was also a Slytherin. But she chose to marry a Muggle, which got her burned off the tree and everything. And that's good or bad, depending on how you look at it. But all of these people were Slytherins, and they all went about their ambition in different ways. And I would argue Andromeda Tonks as one of the least, what's the word? She could have been much more prominent than she was. I would have loved for them to throw her in more, just because I love her storyline. I love a lot of the headcanons people throw out around her. She could have made a real change into even things on how Malfoy would have seen the worldview if he had been able to even just talk with her. You know what I'm saying? But of course, you can't do that because she was against the norm of hating muggles and all of that kind of stuff. Oh, yes, dear viewers. One of the things I forgot to mention is that most Slytherins are purists. They want to keep the pure blood line. That is their big thing. So the Blacks were one of those families. The Malfoys were one of those families. Tom Riddle's line, the Gaunts, were one of those families, where it was all about marrying status, marrying pure blood. You know, to mix with somebody of lesser blood would make your blood dirty. To marry a Muggle gives you dirty blood. That's why Muggles are called mudbloods. It's dirty blood is the idea. And so a lot of your notable Slytherins are going to be those bad people. They're going to be people that sought ambition and sought to keep the wizarding world pure in that way. Like that is their definition of what was good for the world. And then you kind of have some that fall off to the wayside. You don't really know what they were about because like Merlin was a Slytherin, but you know that Merlin was powerful, but you don't really know his ambitions or motives. You just know he was one. And then you have one of the most complicated characters in the initial series, which was Severus Snape. He was a Slytherin, very notable, very important even to the plot. And Half-Blood Prince is still my favorite book. Like I love Chamber of Secrets. My nostalgia for it is just super high. But Half-Blood Prince hits like no other.
It's top 2 for me, and sometimes it goes to number 1, just depending on my mood and how I feel. For me, it's Deathly Hallows, Half-Blood Prince, and then Prisoner of Azkaban. Those are the 3 that just are interchangeable to me at any point in time.
And it's because they were all really ground shaking. They, you know, a lot of in the first couple of books, it felt very like adventure story. Harry and his friends are going to save the day. Wow.
Right.
And yeah, there's a little something looming on the horizon, but you're not worried about it. Half-Blood Prince feels like, okay, so if we start at Prisoner of Azkaban because it comes first, Prisoner of Azkaban was huge because it set up a lot of what could and what couldn't happen in the wizarding world. It gave you those images of that kind of thing first. And then you saw Sirius Black, one of those people in the Black family to defect from the Slytherin house motif line, that kind of thing. And, gave Harry more family. So, I mean, it was a really big moment for a lot of people that just wanted Harry to have a semi-win, but it still stung because it wasn't, perfect. Then you have Half-Blood Prince, and it just shakes the universe. Spoilers for anybody listening. But, the whole Dumbledore saga feels like it comes to an end.
I don't know why I just got that when you said spoilers. I was like, wait, hold on. What?
You're like, what happens? What's so bad? And then you get this development into who Severus Snape really is, not the persona he puts on, not any of that. And what is his big ambition? His big ambition was love for Lily Potter. Like, how are you gonna table that? How are you just gonna shove that off into a corner? I mean, and that really comes back into play in the Deathly Hallows. And whenever he, unfortunately doesn't make it, also spoilers, hate to tell everybody, but by now, if you're listening to this, you should have known it was coming from me.
Yeah.
But he in and of himself is such a complex character. He was a complex moment for the series. And just, he was a game changer. He was my first probably game changer into what it meant to be a Slytherin. Because all this time, he was the evil man. He was the secondary antagonist. It was Slytherin and it was Snape. Potions class was the worst. But he proved that even externally, what looks like evil could be done for good. And I really appreciated that twist out of him. So, yeah, there's my Snape spiel. You knew it was coming.
Had to.
Right. And everybody else in Slytherin house, I mean, obviously besides Voldemort, is a little, I think, less exciting than all of that. I mean, obviously you have the Bloody Baron, the House Ghost, who was a Slytherin, and he loved Helena and that whole thing. Did he love Helena? Yeah, he did. Loved her and then killed her out of rage. True Slytherin move. You boned that up, my guy. And then and then took his own life because what did I do? But I also see in that story another thing that I see a lot with all of the Slytherins we have, including like Malfoy and Draco, specifically Malfoy. And it's that the change of heart that a Slytherin can have when they realize that the thing they were chasing after so much was not worth the thing that they had in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he couldn't have Helena Hufflepuff, but he could have, you know, still like lived and had her live and still continued to be a part of her life. And in realizing that in his fit of rage, he had taken that from her, taken her life from her, you know, it makes him take his own life. It's really a sad thing. But I think it's a common plight for a lot of the evil side of Slytherins. You know, you get to a point where you've been chasing an ambition for so long, you don't realize that what you were chasing might not have been worth it, or the sacrifices you made along the way weren't worth it either. And I think I'll cut it there. I mean, you could say things about Horace Slughorn, but he's a pretty mid-tier for me. I mean, he's not bad.
Spencer's gonna
be free.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with you. I don't at all. I'm just glad that somebody else has those. Listen, and we're not bashing Jim Broadbent. I think
No, absolutely not.
Or is it Jim? Did I say Jim or did I say John?
You said Jim.
You said Jim.
Good. Yeah. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think Slughorn is, as the kids say nowadays, he's mid. He's pretty mid.
Like, he didn't do anything bad. He was okay, you know.
He was there.
He was there. But also he did a big bad, and he not inadvertently. Like he was the one that taught Tom Riddle about Horcruxes. But Tom Riddle was incredibly sorry, my cat tapped my window. Tom Riddle was incredibly persuasive and charismatic. Right. And, you know, able to get people off their guard, like trust in him. You know, he was a prefect. He was a good boy, like he was those things. And so it wasn't really Horace's fault that he was, you know, kind of bamboozled about that. But then he kind of makes up for it in telling Harry about it. So I mean,
yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, first off, 25 points for Slytherin on this one. I think it's very interesting when we talk about the legacy of some of these characters, and really, like, when it comes to play of like book versus movie, because obviously you have Alan Rickman's portrayal of Severus Snape, which was just so
remarkable,
so incredible, so heart-wrenching, and really is a different spin on the character that we get of Snape in the books.
Right.
Because when I read through the series, like kind of when we initially started this podcast, just to get re-familiar with the characters and those stories and all that, like I walked away from Deathly Hallows of just like, well, you know, I don't have this love for Snape after reading the books. But then I rewatched the movies, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, Snape is amazing! He's so incredible."
And it's definitely Rickman's fault that we all have that like semi-softness for him, because he just did superb.
Yeah, but I think I feel like, oh man, and it makes sense because I think that's one of the things that the films that it does well is that I think it brings out. The books, yes, say one thing, but we get to see, okay, maybe this is a different way of us viewing the character. And I feel like what we got in the films is probably a little bit more, it rings truer for me, especially when we talk about, it does. And I think you could say the same thing about Draco Malfoy as well. Tom Felton's portrayal of Draco, especially in Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, like, really seeing the humane side of Slytherin and really get to see the walls of the world that was manufactured for them break down as they got older and they were allowed to be more of themselves. We even see like Draco and Snape in Cursed Child of, okay, what could it look like for those walls to break down? Obviously, not everything was fixed, especially for Draco and his wife and that family line of being purebloods and everything. But you still see those moments of just like, no, we are people who care, and we are people who are family. Because I unless I'm wrong, I think Draco's wife was also a Slytherin.
Yeah.
So, and she valued family, and she taught Draco how to love. And so
she also doesn't get enough credit.
She doesn't. And I think, yeah, there may not be as many notable in the positive side of Slytherins as, let's say, Hufflepuff or Gryffindor, but the ones that you have played a major role in the wizarding world and how the perception of Slytherin can change. And so I think it's a good list.
Yeah, I would agree with everything David said. I was sitting here trying to think of things that I would add. And honestly, I feel like we've covered it.
What about Sebastian? Well, that's more of an Abby question.
Did you finish that storyline, David?
I did.
Okay. I don't think you and I ever got to talk about it.
No, we'll talk about it next week in our review.
Yep.
Or not next week, but the next episode. Whenever that episode comes out. But yeah, absolutely, for sure. All right, let's go. Let's kind of speed through this. We'll go common room, and then just some fun facts, and then house achievements, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah. Abby didn't give me points first.
I agree. The 25 points, man. That was good.
Trying to make sure.
Good.
There we go. she's getting those points.
Listen,
she's an opportunist.
I say
5 points to Slytherin. Extra.
I want to do the bits.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think that we've kept track of the points we awarded in previous episodes.
I thought about that. I thought about that, and so here's what I started doing today. Just a quick side note, and then we'll get back. But I actually have gone back and I've listened to those 2 episodes and was tallying points up of when we were, like, how many points were given in each episode. So when we get to the Ravenclaw one, I'll have the final.
I say, although I feel like we should have waited. I know that you and I are, trying not to be biased.
Right.
But I feel like as judges giving points, we probably also should have.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, because how do I know, David, that you're not awarding less points to everybody else?
That's true. So so maybe I'll just tally it up after the episode.
I trust you.
No. I have some ambitious traits as well as a Gryffindor. So
Slytherin. How do you combine the 2 names? Yeah.
But all right, here we go, Sierra. Let's get into this. Yeah.
No. So we're on common room. Okay, sorry. That's my place.
You're good.
But okay, so for those that don't know, and I'll try to be quicker, the common room is below the Black Lake. So it's in the dungeons. You have to take a tiny staircase to get there, and it looks just like any other stretch of dungeon wall, which I feel like thematically is very fitting for the Slytherins to have, the deep, dark, damp, but also lavish common room. Like it is hidden away. It is very secretive. It's got the ambiance that, you'd want any of your big bads to hang out in, but it's also so elegant because they are very refined. They are very high. Like, I don't want to say high on themselves, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're the uppity people. Uppity people are going to hang out down there. They want the bougie common room. So like they have elaborately carved mantelpieces, which I definitely think like it calls back to how over the top the Chamber of Secrets was.
That's so true.
That's fair.
You didn't have to have a full like catwalk down the middle with all of like those snake statues. You didn't have to have a big old self-portrait at the end, moment. But Salazar Slytherin did that. He did that.
Yeah.
He did.
Pop off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's green and silver and lavish, and there's
Dark.
marble and it's dark, but it does have little, I would say skylights, but I guess you would say like lake lights that like let in that, which you would think coming through the black lake wouldn't get very much light in, but it just gives it that dimly lit, like greenish ambiance that you would expect, I guess, from normal lake water. Like,
I would think that it would give you a headache if you stayed there long enough. Honestly,
you would be able to read. Like, everybody have glasses because they're squinting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, carry a candle with me everywhere I go. Like, these are not for looks.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm blind. Other than that, snakes everywhere. You know, Slytherin things. And I guess for random things, this is where my weak point is, I guess, because I've used a lot of my random things in getting to this point.
That's all right.
But so, I mean, obviously in the movies, they show that Slytherin wasn't really winning the House Cup, you know, until things were kind of shenanigans at the end there, whenever everybody that was on the home team got kicked out.
Yeah.
We evicted everybody so we could win.
Yeah.
Actually, there were 7 years in a row that Slytherin won the House Cup around right before we were all born. So starting in June of 1986, we had a streak going. So take that, everybody else. You wish you were us.
It's not ambition. Sure. They want to win. You know?
And it's cursing people who would tell on you to take your points away. You got to do what you got to do. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Anyways. No. And so what the Sorting Hat says to each house is different per every year. But one of the things it once was quoted saying was, perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. Take that as you will. I did not just say I would curse people to win the House Cup. It's fine. We all know it's true. No. Yeah. But so I've already mentioned about our element being water. And I really like that connection. I already harped on it, so I won't go over it. But that really jives for me. And also, I think it's worth noting that, and I think we had this discussion before as well in a previous episode, but just how many Gryffindors were actually probably Slytherins, but just had that one little quirk in their brain that said, I want to be brave. I want to be brave, Mom. Or just, you know, like Harry, not Slytherin. Okay, well then Gryffindor, I guess, you know, kind of moment. And so, because they're very similar in just their drive to do things, they just have a little bit of a different, I would say, workaround to getting there. But so part of the things that I think makes a lot of our people impressive, and I guess everybody, you know, has people in their house that makes up spells. But in the series alone, you know, you have what is it, Sectum Sempra, that was used by Draco, and turns out it's a callback to the spell that Snape made. I can't speak. And then
which even the name of the spell sounds Slytherin-esque.
It does, with all of the S's. Also, so obviously, that's a hint back to the fact that some Slytherins, you know, in the Salazar Slytherin line, could speak Parseltongue, which is something Harry could do. It's the thing where you talk to snakes. And I'm not talking about the I'm a snake moment, but like full-on stuff. I used to try to do that. Fun facts. Little Sierra was weird. And determined that it was not my calling. So.
Yeah.
Tried to learn Parseltongue.
She's just like, I guess I'm not Salazar Slytherin's heir.
But, you know, they don't make Duolingo for Parseltongue, so I'm out of luck right there.
Well, they do for Klingon, so whatever.
Oh, gosh.
Have you started, Abby? That sounds like something you would have started.
I've tried Spanish like 3 different times and end up forgetting about it and then losing my streaks.
Yeah.
Then the owl comes for you in the middle of the night. Anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
The owls of Slytherin plot twist. It's green. Anyways, no. Another Sorting Hat fun fact is that it was claimed that blood purity was a factor in selecting Slytherins. There are some Muggle-born Slytherins, but they're rare. They're really rare. That was noted by Scabier the Snatcher, which good name, sir. Good name. Oh, and something else to think about is that Umbridge, I'm talking about people that made up like spells and such. Umbridge's cursed quill was like a one-of-a-kind deal when she first had it going. Which
the worst,
truly wicked. I must not tell lies. It was pretty savage.
Yeah.
Also, I thought about my hand cramps whenever I do like a page and a half of homework. Could never.
Man, my hand cramps when I'm writing like a congratulations like note on a card or something. I write a couple lines and my hand just starts hurting.
I cannot. I mean, I'm about the same, TBH. Let's think. Oh, things that Slytherin is infamously famous for. I'm going to throw this in here now. Obviously, we're pretty famous for having He Who Must Not Be Named come from our house.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. That man. he done diddly done it. But, yeah, so Voldemort came from Slytherin. And he was good at it. He was good at playing the game of being manipulative, of being, overly ambitious for his means and finding ways to get what he wants.
Yeah, Tom Riddle really was a sneaky little snake.
He really was. He was sneaking in your garden and catching him a mouse every day, which looked good at first until you realized he was just ready.
Oh man, yeah.
I haven't mentioned her yet, and I love her, so I'll mention it now. Don't forget about Leta Lestrange being a Slytherin. If you're a Fantastic Beasts person, which I am, I have a degree in biology. So let's
We're
go.
Fans.
Fight me if you're not. Literally,
no, seriously. I will throw hands about it. I will curse a fool. It's fine.
Yep.
I need to calm down with my curses. Hold on now. Anyways, I'm at my max for the day too. Anyways, no, but so just another really good example of a good at heart Slytherin. Literally sacrifices herself to Grindelwald to save Newton Theseus, just like my girl, and doing things that honestly at the time in the Muggle world women couldn't do. You love a baddie. I'm just saying. So, other than that, I mean, a lot of Death Eaters were in Slytherin. Unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah.
So, it's that clickiness. Slytherins are known for the clicky purebloodness. That's another way it showed its ugly head. You've got a lot of Blacks that defected even though they went to Slytherin. Blacks being the family that Sirius Black was from. His dad was actually noted as one of the least liked headmaster. Not his dad. Sorry. Somewhere along the line. Phineas Black's dad, who was also named Phineas Black, was the least regarded, worst liked Hogwarts headmaster ever. And just also disowned his son and burned him off the map while he was still at Hogwarts, which I thought was hilarious. Other than that, there were some Slytherins that were Death Eaters that decided to flip the switch while Voldemort was still prominent. You think of Regulus Black stealing the Horcrux and trying to destroy it himself, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, most Slytherins suck, but not all of them do. And that's my take.
So only one thing to add. This could be things that Slytherin is infamously known for, or even just fun facts. In the Battle of Hogwarts, there was only one Slytherin in the battle.
Yep.
And it was Slughorn.
Aren't we ironic?
And he did help Kingsley and McGonagall fight Voldemort. So
we'll give him a little bit of a
he's
higher
an
tier.
upper mid. We'll go upper mid. Yeah.
Very upper mid.
but but even to say that, like, no other Slytherins were in the Battle of Hogwarts,
right?
that
And
we
none
know
joined
of.
Dumbledore's army either. Whenever
Yeah.
that was queued up,
Yeah.
so
Also
Well-
infamously known for not treating house elves well. But
facts. Poor Creature. Like Creature was mean, but look at the house he was brought up in. You know. Oh, Dobby belongs to the
Dobby-
Malfoys for everybody.
Yeah.
Like belonged. He's a free elf now. Sorry.
Yeah.
well, especially free now.
I would.
R.I.P. Dobby.
Oh my gosh, Abby, why did you
Sorry.
say it like that?
You went there.
She went there. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
5
cold-blooded. Welcome to the
5
Slytherin
points from Hufflepuff.
Oh no.
Can't do that to my boy Dobby.
house.
Goodness.
Took him out.
Hey, but that was a Slytherin's fault.
Yeah, we'll blame Bellatrix for it. It's true.
I
Bellatrix
mean,
also notable,
listen,
but sucky.
Bellatrix may have thrown the dagger, but Abby was the one who said the words.
Oh my god.
This is true. Bellatrix
Fact.
threw the dagger. Abby twisted it.
Yes, for sure.
Abby was there.
Abby,
Oh, no.
Abby was there, just doing it. Yeah, but for that entire 50 points. Great job. Great points. Great conversations. And just to take it back to even the whole water symbolism with Slytherin, like the Black Lake, it being under the Black Lake, and for that to even be a factor in the lighting of the place. You have the Chamber of Secrets entrance being in a girl's lavatory. Yep. Those kinds of details didn't really think about. But yeah, I think we got a better sense of Slytherin from Sierra.
Yeah, I would agree. I would give Sierra 60 points for Slytherin House.
Wow.
Yes.
Incredible.
There it is.
I feel like it's always just a good reminder that we need that not all Slytherins are the extremes that you see in the movies or in the books. You get the Scorpius, you get Alan Rickman's Severus Snape, you get you get the Slughorns, you get not everybody's bad. You get the Narcissa Malfoy. I'll admit I like Narcissa Malfoy. I think she's cool.
Yeah.
I think in another world, like her and Molly could have had some good chats because they were just both really fierce moms.
They're both
that were like
fierce moms.
My child above anything. Because you also, and I didn't say this at the other point, but you also have to think about Narcissa was the one who was supposed to confirm Harry Potter was dead to Voldemort.
Yeah.
And in lying, it wasn't lying for Harry's sake. It wasn't lying for the Wizarding world's sake. It was lying for her son. And not just. I'm sure with you about to have a son, Abby, you can understand that sentiment more than any of us. And just that it's not self-preservation. It went above her own self. And then you have Molly Weasley saying, her infamous line that I'm not going to repeat for the kids, but just
for sure.
That moment where everybody was like, yes, like do the thing.
Although I don't know that she would appreciate Molly killed her sister, but
well, I mean, her sister wasn't really nice either. Like not nice to her either or anything. They were like they were mean. And you could kind of, I feel like you could see that, as I say in movie, you could see it because in book, it wasn't really a talked about thing.
Right.
It was just minor details, but in the movie, and that's once again, whether you want to take their humanizing approach or leave it is up to you. But just, and her looking at her and, calling Narcissa her little pet name and her still just like ducking her head to follow, not really out of a love connection, but out of a sense of duty and a sense of in this moment, her son was still in danger, And I think her new family definitely precedes her connections to her, I would say, old family, just because she became a Malfoy and she left the Blacks kind of thing. And the Blacks were never a family for family's sake,
Yeah.
And so I definitely think it was one of those things that while they suffered together as children, Bellatrix really flourished in that environment. And Narcissa sat in the background and was like, I'm going to live my life a little differently. even if she never would have admitted it out loud, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we talk about even Slytherin as a house, it definitely started, and we could admit that it definitely started as, oh, these are the antagonists for Harry to go to, especially in his earlier years at Hogwarts. But it since then has it transformed, and it has developed, and it has grown into, not all Slytherins are bad. My desire in future Harry Potter content is for us to see how the stigma of Slytherins change. And we got to see that a little bit in Cursed Child, but even to see that a little bit even more in future projects, that would be something that I'm interested in. And as we wrap up, I'll ask this final question for you, Abby, or Sierra, and then Abby, you could take us out from here. But
definitely.
Sierra, your thoughts on Max's announcement of a Harry Potter reboot?
Right. Sorry, I only heard Max. I didn't hear HBO, so I was like, who is Max? I was like, I missed something. No, I honestly, I was one of those people that at first I was a little skeptical, just because I'm like, we have this sentimentality where we grew up as Rupert Grint and Emma and Dan Radcliffe all grew up. We grew up with these characters. Mm-hmm. We have always known these characters synonymously to be those actors. As the books were coming out, we're still, the movies were behind the books. Obviously, I remember my parents stood in line at the Blockbuster until midnight. Blockbuster, yes, it's a thing, kids. For the book release of Deathly Hallows Part 2. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, it was the only hard copy book I had of the series, and it took me forever to read it because I had to read all the rest first. And they got me for that before I was the age of 14. So it was very much in our childhood. The series wasn't done book-wise, and the movies definitely weren't done. So it was kind of as we aged, so did the story, so did the characters. And so that's just something that's, I think, very unique to our generation of people. And so we're always going to have that little in the back of our mind attachment. But I mean, if you read the books, the description of the characters was not really necessarily what those actors fully looked like, but also they were kids. You're not going to make them dye their hair or fry it all the time, that kind of thing. But so I had that inhibition at first, but I'm actually really excited because there's just so much to unfold in every book that, there's these quirky little moments where when you reread and you hear something about Peeves and then you think of, was that in the movie? And then you remember Peeves isn't in the movies. Mm-hmm. And it's just, minor for some people, but I love Peeves. I think he's hilarious. And I love that. And there are all of these tiny moments that, if you take 20 minutes out of a movie to do a chapter out of the book, you don't have necessarily the runtime to really do that kind of detail about everything else. So I'm kind of excited to see how they flesh all of those out. But I would say I'm hesitantly excited because there have been plenty of series based on books where, you expect one thing, you expect greatness. You're like, oh yes, technology has come so far. They have so many different ways of making these scenes work, and just centaurs are going to look different than the CGI things that we saw back in the day,
right?
But even so, your quality of production can be so high, and the things that you choose to highlight can misrepresent the story. It can warp the characters. It could change a lot of how you look at characters that you've beloved for a really long time. Or, maybe they do something in one episode, and even though you know what's happening next, they try to add something in that wasn't in the source material. And that would be something that would be hard to kind of feel out, because if you're doing a series, there's been talk that it's a series per book. Yeah, there's a lot in every book, but a season per book, but there's a lot in every book, but is there a lot of episode content for those little moments? Those cutaways or whatever, I'm not sure. And so I just skeptically optimistic because I want to be optimistic about it and I want to love it. And I'm glad that there is going to be more content, but I'm little hairy on it. So we will see. But I'm not gonna boycott it. Some people are boycotting. I'm not gonna be one of those people, but I'm probably not gonna be the first to rush in either. I'll probably give it a day. It'll be out a day and then I'll watch it.
So. Awesome. Well, thanks for giving us your thoughts, Sierra. That's something that I know that we've had to do a lot of reflecting on the last few weeks and coming to terms with and trying to get new perspectives.
I was surprised by so many negative memes, like on the onset. I was like, oh, people are mad.
See, and it was that onslaught, that just outpouring of negative memes and TikToks that swayed me the other direction, because at the same time I was like, man, I really don't want this. But the more I saw all of those kind of negative things going on, it turned me the other way. I was just like, no, you know what, I'm going into this. I'm head first into this because of, people just do too much.
Right. And ultimately it deserves a chance. Like it could be great.
Could be
right.
It's possible, people.
We'll see.
Jude Law's Dumbledore. Make it happen.
Oh my gosh.
Connect it to Fantastic Beasts. Do the fourth one. Come on. It's right there.
Honestly.
Right.
Within
Poetry.
grasp.
Yeah. Warner Brothers, hire me.
Do it.
That I'd get behind. I'd be down. I'd get behind David being a part of.
You have the knowledge.
Yeah.
At least let me write the score, please. I'd love to do the score.
Well, I think that is going to wrap us up for our Slytherin episode, our House Cup Slytherin episode. Sierra, thank you so much. I feel like we almost need like a little sound like,
Yeah. I'll see if I can put it in.
We appreciate you taking the time to really unpack what it means to be a Slytherin and why they're cool and why they're not, and what we can learn about them. I was gonna say every house has its cool and has its not cool.
Yeah,
there were some not cools in Hufflepuff.
They were Ernie, cool. Michael.
Yeah. Justin was hard at first,
Anyways,
but again, we appreciate your time.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a fun time. I love doing this. I have finals this week, but this was worth it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Glad. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
David, I'm struggling to remember what's next on our plate, and I don't know. Are we wanting to? Is it the? It's
the final thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. We'll get into spoilers about the story. One of the things about the story in particular for you guys to look forward to in the next one, I do have an answer for the 5th year question. I do have an answer for that. Whether you'll like it or not, that remains to be seen.
Is it your answer or like an official answer?
It's an official answer from my playthrough. And so we'll dive into that here in about 2 weeks.
Solid. Well, we're excited about it. Again, feel free to go back and listen to any of our previous episodes. They're all a lot of fun. I can guarantee it because I was there for most of them. They're a blast. And even when I wasn't there, I still listened to them and thought they were fun because David and Spencer were there.
Yeah.
So again, show of requirement. You can also go to our Instagram page where we're slowly going to start picking up posting more content again soon. And that is HP_fanatics, right?
H Potter underscore. Yeah.
Dang it. It's been a while.
All right. It's been a while.
Cut that part out.
H Potter _fanatics. Feel free to either shoot us some comments or some DMs there or on our YouTube page, any thoughts or reflections you have from our episode or previous ones. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We like to do owl post episodes every now and then where we get some of your feedback or questions and just discuss. So we'd love to hear anything you all have to say. But other than that, unless I'm forgetting something, I guess on behalf of myself and David and Sierra and Spencer in spirit, we thank you all for listening, and we'll see you soon. Mischief managed.